Good evening, and welcome to the 2024 Foxboro Jaycees Candidates Night. This is an annual tradition the Foxboro Jaycees are excited to bring back to you in person after 4 years. We want to express how grateful we are for the great staff here at FCA for collaborating with us and broadcasting live for you, the voters of Foxboro at home. They are truly great partners to us and the community. My name is Caitlin Pignone. I have been a member of the Foxboro Jaycees for just about a year, and I am happy to be serving as your moderator tonight. This year, we have 4 people running for 2 seats on the Select Board. Leah Gibson has stepped down, and we thank her for serving on the Select Board through her 2 terms. We also have 4 candidates for the School Committee looking to fill 2 seats. We have incumbents Sarah Ladani and Richard Pearson, and new challengers Tai Court-Odema and Nathan Ehrman. All 8 candidates will be answering questions randomly selected from you, the people of this town. We mixed it up this year and got questions direct from those who submitted to the Jaycees online posting. We thank you for your thoughtful submissions. We want to remind everyone that the Foxboro Jaycees, as stated in our bylaws, do not endorse or promote any candidates in these contests. We only wish to offer you a chance to listen to the candidates in order to better inform your decision come May 6th. Let's move on to the ground rules. Historically, as the Jaycees moderator, we only had to prompt the press panel or person to ask the questions. This year, the questions came from you, so we will ask the candidates the questions and also alert them when their time is up. We are asking those who are reading opening statements to keep them about 3 minutes in length. And for the Q&A questions, candidates will have a couple of minutes to answer each question. After the question and answer period, each candidate can choose to make a closing remark in around 2 minutes in length. Without further ado, let's get started. Here are the candidates. Joining us now are the 4 candidates seeking to fill the 2 open seats of our Foxboro School Committee. Please welcome incumbent Sarah Ladani and Richard Pearson, along with challengers Tai Court-Odema and Nathan Ehrman. Thank you all for being here. As mentioned earlier, you can each offer an introductory statement of 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll proceed with the community questions. Please try to keep your responses, again, also to 2 minutes, and your closing remarks no more than 2. We will have the opening statements based on the numbers you drew. Then the questions will be by alphabetical order by last name. Then the subsequent questions will alternate the order. The closing statements will follow the reverse opening pattern. That means Richard will start, followed by Sarah, then Nathan, then Tai. Let's get started. So Richard, you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Well, first, thank you to the Jaycees and Foxboro Cable Access for offering this night for all of us in the community. And good luck to all the other candidates. And thank you all for putting yourself out here for this important volunteer opportunity for our town. I am running for a 3rd term of the school committee and proud of the committee work that I have done for the past 6 years. I have lived in Foxboro since 1975 and graduated from Foxboro High School. This long time in town has given me a very strong sense of this community and a very real understanding of who we are and what we expect in the town. Professionally, I have been in education my entire life. I began my teaching career in 1989 as a music teacher, spent 4 years as assistant principal at Foxboro High School, and 8 more years as a high school principal, before spending these last 12 years at the State High School Athletic Association and State Principals Association. I do believe that these 35 years of educational experience will really help me in forwarding the goals of our Foxboro school system. And as citizens consider all of these candidates, I hope you will review what I have done during the past 6 years. And you can view all of that and see exactly where my positions are and what I have said. But if reelected, I want to leave you with just a few thoughts that I will focus on immediately in my next term. First, the physical and emotional safety of all students, critical for our students each and every day. The hiring of a new business manager and support expectations for clear financial goals for the system and transitioning that new person. The continued efforts with the MSBA, which is the State School Building Authority, to advocate and seek reimbursement for the very needed upgrade to Taylor School. The development of a new district strategic plan. Our plan for success has 1 more year in it, and we have to develop that new one, which is our strategic goals for this community. And finally, to support the continued development of MTSS, our multi-tiered system of supports for all of our students, which really helps their success and access to curriculum. I close with, I grew up here in Foxboro, went to high school here, chose to raise my family here, worked here at Foxboro High School. I deeply care about this town and believe in supporting the exceptional educational opportunities that we expect. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Sarah, it's your turn. Please proceed with your statement.
Hi, my name is Sarah Ladani, and I've been here in Foxboro for about 25 years. I as well have raised my family here, and I have been a passionate volunteer for the schools for well over a decade at this point. I want to thank everybody in Foxboro for an amazing 3 years on the school committee. I love every facet of the job. Even when it's hard, I still enjoy being an advocate and a voice for Foxboro. Over the last 3 years, I have come to a deeper understanding of what my role is through asking questions, stopping and asking for clarification when I need it, and doing my best to be a good listener to my community, students, families, and school administration. And that's pretty much where I'm at. I hope over the next 3 years to be able to be a continued advocate for students, families, and administration, and just continue to do the good work that I've done on the school committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now Nathan, it's your turn.
My name is Nathan Ehrman, and I am a 13-year resident in the town of Foxboro. I'd like to begin by thanking the Jaycees and Foxboro Cable Access for this opportunity to speak before our community. Thank you to the other candidates for participating in today's event. It is important that the community has a chance to hear from all the candidates. I attended Foxboro Public Schools for my entire education, and I am a product of our excellent school system. My passion for government began in 7th grade when we first started researching civics and how our government operates. I have been involved in student government, serving as class president the last 3 years, as well as student council president this current year. These experiences have allowed me to represent the interests of our students in Foxboro and organize events across the community. Additionally, I am part of the school council, where we review on an annual basis our school policies, plans for success, and ways to mitigate ongoing issues related to our schools. I also participate on the Superintendent's Student Advisory Committee. This committee is a student body that represents the views and interests of our youth. In all these groups that I've participated in, I have learned the importance of listening to all stakeholders and coming to a decision that is in the best interest of our students. Being a part of these groups has allowed me to build cooperative and efficient working relationships with school administrators, which has enabled change to occur within our schools. There are many motivating factors that led to me running for a seat on the school committee, such as my ongoing passion for government and representing our community and their interests. However, my goal in participating in the school committee is ultimately due to wanting to continue to give back and create a lasting impact for our community. The last 2 years, I've taken on the role as a student liaison for the school committee. This has given me firsthand experience of how the committee successfully functions. I've been able to see how budgets are determined, receive updates on essential programs our school offers, and understand the progress we as a district are making for our schools. If elected, I pledge to put constituents' interests first and represent their ideas within the school committee. With a crucial year for our budget due to a lack of funding, it is important we take the appropriate steps to ensure our school system continues to achieve its expectations. We must continue to bridge the gap of student inequity and find solutions to the challenges we face to ensure we are advocating for the best interests of our students. It is time for the next generation to step up and take an active role in creating the future of Foxboro. For these reasons, I am asking for you to participate at the polls on May 6th and vote Nathan Ehrman for school committee.
Thank you, Nathan. Finally, we will proceed with Tai's statement.
Thank you. My name is Tai Court Odima, and first of all, I'd like to thank the Jaycees for this opportunity to share about my platform and how it aligns with the district's student plan for success. I welcome this opportunity to demonstrate how my enthusiasm, education, experience, and representation will serve only to benefit our school district. When running for an elected role, it's easy to make promises and say things that sound appealing, but the questions that you've submitted, the concerns that you've expressed, and the responses that you receive tonight should inform how you vote. As I've done throughout my campaign, I'll encourage you to listen to each candidate and hold them accountable to what they say they'll do. My goals in this role are to ensure that we continue to work within and review our budgets in line with the student plan for success and the different ways that student success can look. I'll continue to advocate for students who are underrepresented in our schools, whether that be by race, culture, students who are in special education programs, advanced students, etc. I'll ensure that our policies are a reflection of today's students' needs. My professional experience more than qualifies me for this role, but I understand that serving on the school committee requires skills that can only be acquired over time through learning, practice, and commitment to educational success. I have firsthand experience with handling challenging disciplinary issues with students and families, recognizing missteps in communication between upper admin and the rest of the school community, and working to restore trust between different levels of stakeholders in the education space. Likewise, I have firsthand experience with teacher burnout, and while every individual situation is unique, there are policy choices that can make the workplace a healthy and sustainable environment that makes employees feel appreciated and valuable. I've been in positions where I've had to vote, knowing that my vote played significant roles in decisions being made through board involvement. My vote has direct implications, and I have experienced understanding that my accountability and consideration of those different results is important. This is not a role that I'm running for as a practice run or to check off a box on my resume. I'm a parent, an educator, and a lifelong learner who has spent my entire life in educational settings. I know the importance of leaders who are competent, experienced, and have a proven track record of success in the very things that they stand for. As with all elections, to vote on the basis of nostalgia, hearsay about a newcomer's platform, or assumptions on any level is dangerous. As with all elections, I don't expect anyone to agree with me on 100% of my positions and stances, and that is the benefit of collaboration with the committee. I believe in the progress of our 21st century schools and how meeting the needs of all of our students contributes to Foxboro's schools and therefore our students' ability to continue to be seen as reputable beyond our town and region and in the greater educational landscape. I look forward to serving in this role and working with the other committee members as we usher in a brighter educational future for our children.
Thank you. Now we will welcome in Sophia, a fellow Jaycee, and she will be asking the questions received from the community. We are trying to give the vibe of the days where we did have a press panel or person next to the moderator. Remember, you will each have the opportunity to answer the same question. So let's begin.
Yeah, I just want to clarify one more thing, is that these questions were gathered in a randomizer and a little spinny wheel and on the computer, and I hit spin, and they were selected that way. So if there's any that you feel out there that are missing, they still have a whole campaign for you to ask those questions at some other time. So let's begin. So we're going in alphabetical order this time. So Sarah, I'll start with you. And this is a pretty simple question to start with, and I was happy it came up first. Why are you running for a seat on the school committee, and how do you see its role, the committee's role, in the community?
So thank you for the question. I'm running for school committee because I've thoroughly enjoyed my role and my job over the last 3 years. It's taken me 3 years to really learn the role and learn the responsibilities and what it really means to oversee policy, oversee the superintendent, and oversee the budget. I spent time on the policy subcommittee and budget subcommittee, as we all do when we take turns in our roles throughout the years. And I just felt like it was the right move to continue doing that role and doing that job to the best of my ability to represent families and students and teachers.
And the second part of the question is, how do you see the committee's role in the community? I think you might have already answered that as well.
How do I see the role of the committee in the community?
With how you sync well with the versus the superintendent's.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't a really well-worded question, so I'm going to skip that part.
Oh no, I don't mind.
And I think if you're satisfied with that answer, I'm sorry. That's fine.
No, that's okay.
Okay, Richard, same question. We can repeat it if you want.
No, I think I have it. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you very much. Well, I'm running again this third time, really for the same reason I did the first time. I've already said that I've been in education all my life. I'm still in it every day. I have contact very frequently the Department of Education, so I have great access to what we're doing in education, contemporary education. And so when I ran 6 years ago, I ran to give my expertise and my years of experience to a great town that I love. that I've spent my whole entire life with, that, as I've said to you already, my children are here. And so it was a way for me to give back and bring what I do every day to the everyday life of Foxboro. And I expect that's what I want to do and will do and continue to do. And I think that's the role of a school committee member, is to really kind of bring their expertise to the table and then really build the school system, the strength of the school system, through all the things that we do with budget and policy and the superintendent, to bring that to it and make it a great school system.
Thank you.
Awesome. Tai?
I'm running because, similar to Richard, I've been involved in education my entire life, from being a student to being an administrator, and even currently as an educator, a college educator. And living in Foxboro, having 2 young children of my own, I want to make sure that they're in the best school system possible. So using my skills and expertise that I've gained over the years, I want to contribute to my community. And the best way that I know how is through education.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
And Nathan, your turn.
So with me running, I offer a unique perspective on the school committee. I'm almost finished with all 13 years of my education here in Foxboro. It's been great, and I see all the firsthand challenges we face as well as obstacles we're overcoming on the day-to-day basis, and I offer that perspective. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be completely transparent with the community, make sure that there's no hidden personal agendas. Everything that I've said I'm going to do, I'm going to do that to my best of my abilities, and it's just the next step in me giving back to the community and continuing to give back.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank
We'll
you.
move on to the next question.
Next question. It is the responsibility of the school committee to make decisions that are in the best interest of the students. What would you do if what much of the town wants conflicts with what you think is in the best interest of the students?
So start with Richard.
I would not deviate at all from doing the right things for the students. That's what the school committee is there for, to really understand what education is all about and what's the best way to deliver teaching and learning in the classroom. That's critical. So given the question as you structured it, that there might be something that's best for students, and kind of articulating that as the way the question was structured, that what's right for students. If the goal is to set up a system that delivers education to the students and they're the receivers of the teaching and learning, then we must stay focused on that at all times. And there are times that communities probably don't understand the depth of a situation for the students and what it looks like in the classroom, what it looks like day to day. So there are probably times that happens. So, you still have to make the right decision for students and then use our opportunity and our public presence to help educate the community on the why. It's the right thing and the where to go for kids.
Great.
Thank you.
Tai, same question.
Would you like me to repeat it?
Sure.
Sure. It's the responsibility of the school committee to make decisions that are in the best interest of the students. What would you do if what much of the town wants conflicts with what you think is in the best interest of the students?
I believe that the students' interest is the priority. The school committee's responsibility is to communicate with the community, but that does not mean making decisions to appease the community. So obviously we hope that things that we decide, policies that are put in place, are in agreement with the community's values. But again, if the priority is student success, thinking outside of even this community and the reputation of our students in schools in the wider educational landscape, we have to put students first. So if there was a matter or an issue that came before the committee that the community didn't agree with, I think in efforts to clarify, communication would be essential, but the decision would still be made to benefit the students.
Okay, and Nate, same question.
Do you want me to repeat it? You're good. Okay.
I do agree that the students' priority is the priority, and everything is done in the best interest of our students. And we want to make sure that as we make decisions as a school committee, that our students are always first, regardless of outside pressure. However, we do want to hear from all stakeholders and make sure that all groups have an opportunity to share their side and make an impact in the decision that the school committee makes for our students.
Thank you. Sarah, your turn.
I agree with the other candidates that students should always be prioritized. Communication is definitely key between the school committee and the public at large. Like Nathan said, all the stakeholders. But another thing to be mindful of too is that with public education, it can be individualized to each student. So every case where someone may feel like this might be right for my child, but may not be right for the next child, there's always opportunities for families to advocate for themselves and their student on what they feel is right. But at the end of the day, sitting on the committee, we often take guidance from the state, we take guidance from the district, and all these wonderful educated people and administrators that are in that are leading the district. So, we do often follow them. But like I said, communication and listening to the families and just making sure everybody knows that it can be an individual approach if the community feels a certain way or a certain group of stakeholders feel a certain way. They certainly, it's their right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Start
Sure.
with Tai this time.
Yep. Okay. So the question is, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have tried to play that off with glasses. The Student Opportunity Act, SOA, plan, sorry, let me start that over. The Student Opportunity Act that Foxboro Public Schools submitted calls for increased inclusion and support for students with disabilities, high-need students, and additional at-risk populations. If you were to visit a school and look for evidence of success in meeting the SOA plan goals in these specific areas, what would you be looking for? Hopefully that was understood, because, again, I didn't write it.
Thank you for that question. And one of my platforms is diversity and inclusion in education, so I really appreciate this question. Walking into a school building, I would want to see what's happening in classrooms. So I think sitting in a classroom and observing how students are treated, how their needs are being met, just as an observer would be essential. I would also want to talk to teachers and administrators to see how they are viewing different methods of implementing inclusion. And I'd like to know if there are students who have specific accommodations or specific needs, how teachers are considering meeting those needs. I'd also want to know if there are supports in place to help teachers be prepared for those. That can be challenging when you have a classroom full of students who have individualized needs. So yeah, if I walked into a school building, I would want to see objectively what's happening, and then I think hearing from individuals is a good way to collect information on how things are being implemented and how people are being supported in supporting our students.
Thank you. Nate, same question.
You read it again? Yes, it is a mouthful. The Student Opportunity Act plan that Foxboro Public Schools submitted calls for increased inclusion and support for students with disabilities, high-need students, and additional at-risk populations. If you were to visit a school and look for evidence of success in meeting the SOA plan goals in these specific areas, what would you be looking for?
So I think when you walk into a school, what you want to look for in that case is you're going to want to walk into classrooms, and you're going to want to see certain individuals who might need a little bit more attention or have certain needs that they need tended to, and you want to see what is being done for those specific students, as well as if that is becoming a distraction to the rest of the class, and how there's certain ways to do it so that everyone is benefiting from it. And you want to see all the other programs and the offers that the schools have for students that have certain needs that they need tended to. And then on the other side, you're going to want to talk to administration and see their thoughts on the process and if they have any feedback or any suggestions. And of course the teachers, because they're the ones where it starts, how they help the students. So you want to make sure that everyone is on the same page and everyone agrees on how the process is being held.
Okay.
Thank you. Sarah?
So I agree with the other comments, and at this point, I'd say specifically we have a multi-tiered system of supports that is in place in the schools to sort of be a catch-all. It's a system so that we can follow each individual student, watch their needs, watch their progress, and it's sort of a measurement tool used by the teachers, by the families, and by the administration to sort of guide the students along as they go through. We have a wonderful co-teaching model in the schools. So if I were to walk through the schools, I get to observe that. I would get to observe some of my, special ed supports. We hear about all these things digested. When you sit on the school committee, you hear and you see a lot digested in reports, and you hear a lot of feedback. That's the one thing I would say that's been the biggest adjustment, is that it's very hands-off when you sit on the school committee. Unlike volunteering in the schools and being sort of in the fold, with school committee, you're sort of just watching everything as it goes along. But you realize that it's not just a report on paper, that these systems of supports are in play every day within the schools. Kids don't even realize it, students don't even realize it, that they're being supported by all these I keep using the word systems, but all these systems that are in place to sort of protect them and make sure that they are learning to their deepest potential, and in a safe environment where all these teachers and everybody involved is really bringing out the best that they have. It seems like a broad reach, but we see the results and the success at the end of everything when we see everybody's scores and we get all the feedback from the teachers. It really is it's an amazing.
Thank you.
It's an amazing thing.
Richard, your turn.
Could you read it one more
Read it
time?
again?
Yeah, just bring it
I was
back.
trying to ask you if you wanted me to read it again. I may have a follow-up with this one, so let's see. The Student Opportunity Act plan that Foxborough Public Schools submitted calls for increased inclusion and support for students with disabilities, high-need students, and additional at-risk populations. If you were to visit a school and look for evidence of success in meeting the SOA plan goals in these specific areas, what would you be looking for?
Thank you. So first of all, observing what happens in the classroom takes many days and many different opportunities. You can go in one single moment and see what's happening in the classroom, see what engagement looks like, see what activity looks like, and then you can go into it the next day and see something very different, but you could still see engagement in a different way. So the real goal of the Opportunities Act and all of the multi-tiered system of supports is to bring to bear whatever it is for students to access curriculum in their way. And the best way to observe that in any classroom is definitely by the affect and the reaction of students of receiving information. How are they receiving information? How are they engaging with information? Are they enthusiastic? Are they attentive? Do they understand? Do they actually show in their faces and their actions an understanding and a grasp of what the instructional is happening in the classroom? That's really one of the best ways you can do it. And as the other people were answering, I was thinking about one of the best things we get as a committee is when we get our school committee or a special education report, and we've had it every year from the director of special education. And one of the best things to see what's happening is the photos that they always supply. And they do it with intent, so that we can actually see what's going on while the kids are acting and feeling. And that's really what you must do. Because the way teachers and educators react to what's going on, the way they reach out to another student and try to give them another access or another way around the problem and the challenge, that's what you look for when you observe in a classroom. And you do it by walking around. So the opportunity would be walking around in a building and putting those things in your mind that shows that learning isn't happening and engagement is active.
Okay, thank you.
We have our last question,
Yep.
so we will start with Sarah.
I'll skip my follow-up to that last one because I think that was all good. Once again with the glasses. I'm going to Clark Kent it. Final question. This is a compound one. It's like a 2-for-1. Some of these seem to have been 2-for-1, but this one is, what do you feel are the top 3 items that need the most attention in our schools? And what are the top 3 things you think our schools do well?
This is a tough one. Top 3 things. We're constantly, our job on school committee is to monitor, I mean, I've repeated it already, but to monitor policy and budget and superintendent, and we get to look through this amazing lens. The work that we have to do, definitely there's a lot of work that needs to be done, obviously with special education, with the multi-tiered system of support. That's work that's ongoing, so that's really important work that we need to continue to do. I don't know that I would have 3 specific things, because I feel like it's just all this work that we've been talking about that's consistent and ongoing. As far as what we do well here in Foxboro, there is so much. I've heard the term district of choice in so many different ways, but I really do feel like we have a great district. We have a great administration. I've gotten to be on the hiring committee for multiple different administrators over the years, and just the process and the way things go. It's really been an amazing experience, and I feel very lucky and blessed here in this district. So I'm sorry it wasn't 1, 2, 3, but that's,
it's okay. I mean,
that's my answer.
That's the question. You know, if you answer how you feel.
Thank you.
What you know, it's good.
Thank you. And Nathan, next.
Do you want me to repeat it? Sure. It's what do you feel are the top 3 items that need the most attention in our schools? And then, what are the top 3 things you think our schools do well?
So in our schools, I think that we need to continue to bridge the gap between different groups of students and make sure that all students feel safe and included in everything that they're participating in. I think we want to make sure that our schools are easily accessible and all the programs we have are accessible to all our students and are challenging. We want to make sure that we're challenging our overachievers, as well as making sure we have support systems and need for students who may need that. And what was the second part of that question?
The second one was, what do you think of the around 3 things you think the schools do well?
I think when you hear Foxborough Public Schools, everyone's always proud to be from Foxborough. Everyone is always happy that they go to the schools here. We have a number of private schools in the area, yet Foxborough still has good enrollment numbers. You always see people wanting to come here, and that's because of the school system, the administration, and just the district as a whole. It's appealing to people on the outside to come and visit Foxborough and see what we're all about and how we run things.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. And Richard, go to you next.
I would start with, I said some things in my opening already about what I would pay attention to. So I think the first thing I said, and it's a very broad category, but the physical and emotional safety of students is always paramount to what we do. So whether the physical safety is about our police response, our fire response, and all the things we do in the building, that's one thing. Physically, that students are feeling safe when they're walking around the building, but then emotional safety, a place and a person to go to, an adult in the educational environment that they can talk to. Number 1. Number 2, what we could to work on, again, I already said it, that we have a responsibility for a budget and maintaining some really important things as a school committee leadership. So being attentive to the new business manager and how that's going to function and how that functions in support of our school system is important as well too. A third thing, I guess the final thing I would say is what I said in the opening as well too, that the Taylor School issue is real. We've been putting this forward many, many times. We have our other buildings that are coming up to snuff, and this Taylor School situation is not really a sound educational environment, and so we really must push for that building. What do we do well in Foxborough? The first thing I was thinking of is access for all students to do what they want when they want. And that's a broad statement in my mind, that we have no fees at the high school, so our students can participate without having to pay things. So there's no socioeconomic challenge for students to be in sports or whatever that might be. And so that's very valuable, not at the high school level too, but everywhere, that students can access many of the activities in the school system. Accessing the curriculum in the SPED services. We've talked about MTSS. A bunch of us have said it a couple times. That's important. Out-of-district placements coming back is all part of MTSS. And then the final thing I do think we do well is financial responsibility. We have created budgets that are always within that 3 or 3.25 or 3.5% that we've agreed to do as a school system for the success of all of our departments in town.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Tayi, do you want me to read it again?
Yes, please.
Okay. Sorry, just have to jump in. I'm never sure. What do you feel are the top 3 items that need the most attention in our schools? And what are the top 3 things you think our schools do well?
Thank you. Top 3 items that I feel you said need the most attention?
Yeah.
So DEI is definitely something that I think all school districts should keep at as a priority. I think that considering the students who are joining our school system. So that includes students coming through programs, so through METCO, our newcomers who are moving here because of the migrant housing crisis, thinking about students who are underrepresented in the student population for other reasons. That should be a top concern, and making sure that those students feel welcomed and included in the school community. I also think that a priority should obviously be the budget. Education costs money, and so thinking about the ways that we fund different programs definitely shows where our priorities are. And then another thing that should be top of mind is support for our teachers as well. I met with the superintendent, we talked about salaries, and I think that our district pays pretty well in comparison to surrounding districts. So thinking about our teachers in this whole view of education should also be a top priority. And then as far as things that
They do well.
we do well, community involvement. I love going to school events. So Bandorama, there was standing room only when I arrived. I was holding my little toddler. So yeah, it was a long time standing, but I enjoyed it. And seeing that there were so many families there, not just because their kids were performing, but community members were supporting it. I think that's really something that we do well. Another thing is opportunities within, especially the high school. So I've heard a lot about the experiential learning program, access to vocational and tech programs from surrounding schools. That's another way for students to achieve success. And the last thing in these 6 seconds that I have left is the openness to hearing from the community. I think that community input is definitely considered.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the closing remarks. You're going to have 2 minutes, and we'll reverse the order that we went in before. So we're going to start with Tai.
Okay.
Back to back.
Your vote for the next 3 years of leadership should not be based on a logo. It isn't about keeping things the same way that they were 50 or even 5 years ago. It's about looking at history, appreciating it for what it was, learning from our mistakes, and moving forward with trust and confidence that the combined experience and diversity of this committee will provide nothing but the best for the students of today and the future. Again, I look forward to working with our committee to provide the best for our students, to advance our schools, and to make sure that Foxboro continues to be the best school system that it possibly can be. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nathan.
If I'm elected to the school committee in May, I think it's important that as school committee members who are elected officials, we represent the wishes of our community members and the town that voted us into this position. I think it's important that as you decide who you want to vote for, you make sure to go in with an open mind and do not jump to conclusions of certain candidates' agendas or ideas that they may have. It's important that you consider what they've said and how they said it and their actions, and make sure that you decide what is the best candidate to represent your community, your students, and your families. So I hope that you go and vote May 6th for me or any other candidate out here.
That's very nice.
Sarah?
Thank you so much for having me tonight. Clearly, I'm very nervous. When I ran 3 years ago, we were worried about getting back on track in a post-pandemic world. We've survived that. We've seen that through. We've gotten our students back in school, and everything's doing well. I hope to continue the good work that I've started on the committee to promote academic excellence, encourage a safe, supportive environment, respect the diversity and dignity of individuals, and ensure a quality education for all Foxboro students. And I truly hope that you will choose to re-elect me on May 6th as your Foxboro School Committee member. Thank you.
All right, and we'll close out with Richard.
Thank you. I close with just asking again for your support for another 3 years on the school committee to really bring the continued growth that we've worked on for 6 years, a consistent approach to that growth and an understanding of it as we move forward together. I'm super proud of this town. So proud to live here and be here and do all the work to make this the great school system that it is. It is that good. It's seen that important to the town, but people from the outside know what's going on in Foxboro. And so I really wish to be a part of that again, to facilitate that and make it happen for all of the best that we can do in this town. Again, as I said in my opening, I thank the other candidates for putting themselves out here to volunteer for something that's so important to this town. And I'd like to do it again for you, so I do hope you as well vote in May, and for me, for a third term on the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. It's been great having you here. We appreciate your participation, and we appreciate you all running for this very important role. Next, we're going to move on. I'd like to take this moment to mention other candidates on the May 6th ballot who could not be here tonight and are all running unopposed. Running for another term on the Board of Assessors is Lori Rudd. Tracy Vasili and Kevin Weinfeld are running for re-election to the Planning Board. Betsy Allo is running for another 3-year term on the Board of Health. Michael P. Stanton is running to stay on the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners. Gregory Spear is going for another 5 years on the Housing Authority. And Sarah Halton is running to remain a Boyden Library trustee. There is one open seat for a Boyden Library trustee, leaving the option open for a write-in candidate. And now we will take a short break before moving on to the candidates of the Select Board. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're moving on to the Select Board. Please welcome Seth Ferguson, Debbie Giordano, Millie Citroni, and Bill Yukna. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
As we did with the school committee folks, we will open up with each of you introducing yourselves for up to 3 minutes at a time, and we will then proceed with the questions. We had you pull numbers from a hat for opening statements. We will then similarly use alphabetical order to dictate the rotation of the questions after that and reverse the draw order for the closing statements. And again, please note that we may try to get your attention should you go over time. So let's get started with the statements. We will begin with Millie.
Thank you for having me to the Foxboro Jaycees and Cable Access, and to our moderator, Caitlin Pignone. Thank you. First of all, my name is Millie Citroni. I have been a resident of Foxboro for 43 years. I have raised 4 children in this town. They are all Foxboro residents. And they are not all Foxboro residents. I am sorry, 2 of them are. They have all graduated from Foxboro high schools. I have 8 grandchildren in this town. I am a local realtor for 36 years. I have worked for a local attorney. I have done several committees in this town. I'm proud of my work. I'm proud of my family, and I want to get started on the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill, it's your turn. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Bill Yukna, and I'm running for a seat on the Select Board. I've lived in Foxboro for 32 years now with my wife, Pam. We've raised both of our children, Mike and Jennifer, and they're both graduates of the Foxboro Public Schools, and my grandchildren are currently entering the school system. Prior to living in Foxboro, I was a partner and CFO for Rochelle's Incorporated, which operated a children's clothing store in Foxboro on Main Street for 18 years, employing many Foxboro residents. In addition, we were strong supporters of the Foxboro Discretionary Fund for clothing for families in need. My professional background includes being an accountant and a senior systems engineer, and for the last 32 years as a chief financial officer for Rochelle's Incorporated, New England Pottery, and New England Capital Partners, a private equity firm. In 2012, I left the private sector and accepted the position of school business administrator for the Foxboro Public Schools. I financially guided the town's largest budget for more than 12 years now, working with the school administration and school committee to return any excess funds to the town's budget. I helped to develop and implement a town-wide facilities department and technology department to manage the town's needs and assets more efficiently. I have a strong working knowledge of the town's financials and operations and a good working relationship with town department heads. I'm retiring from my current position as the business manager at the end of this school year. I've been involved in Foxboro as a volunteer since I moved in town, originally as a coach for youth soccer and basketball, then as a member and chairperson of the advisory committee. I've been appointed to half a dozen committees throughout the town. And in 2019, I was appointed to the interim director of finance for the town when the position went vacant for a month, and the town needed someone to fill the role to enable the payrolls and vendor payments to be made. In addition, over the past 23 years, I've been a member and chairman of the Permanent Municipal School Building Committee, which is overseeing the construction and renovation of nearly every public building in the town. With the support of the rest of my committee, we have brought in every budget on or under budget, returning the process and excess funds to the town for future budget needs of other buildings. I've been involved with the community center purchase option that we are looking at currently and believe it is one of the best options the town has for the cost. But obviously that will be a decision that the residents need to make. If elected, I will listen to residents' concerns and do my best to address them in the best interest of all residents. I will work hard to make sure that the budgets are efficient and represent the true needs and expectations of taxpayers. And finally, most importantly, if elected, I will work hard to ensure the transparency and integrity of this Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Now we're moving on to Deb Giardino. Sorry, I mispronounced that.
That's okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you to Cable, and thank you to the Jaycees, and thank you to the citizens of Foxboro for submitting the questions tonight. My name is Debbie Noonan Giardino. I'm running for one of 2 seats on the Select Board. I'm a 60-plus year resident, so that makes me the winner out of everybody. I've raised my family here. Both my husband and I are graduates of Foxboro High School, and I now have grandchildren also entering into the school system. I recently retired from the Recreation Department after serving 22 years as a director. Given my historical knowledge of the town and institutional knowledge from my years as an employee, I have the background and the tools to successfully move forward as a Select Board member. Anyone who knows me knows I am passionate about Foxboro and its future. If elected, my focus will be on transparency and openness in how decisions are made by our town leaders, fiscal responsibility without sacrificing services, smart economic growth in line with needs of the community, and I will work towards creating opportunities as they will allow all ages to continue to live in Foxboro. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Seth.
Thank you. I apologize for the cough.
No worries.
Feeling much better. My name is Seth Ferguson, and I'm running for a seat on the Foxboro Select Board. I've been a resident of Foxboro for most of all of the last 38 years. I attended Foxboro schools, as have each of my 3 children. My youngest son is a current 6th grader at the Ahern Middle School. My wife, Kim, works at the Boyden Library, and my parents are still very active and still live in the house that my siblings and I grew up in. I have met lifelong friends in this town, and I am very thankful to have a new group of friends at our local Y that are my workout and basketball buddies. Shout out to those guys. My family and I have thrived here in Foxboro. We live in a safe and vibrant town filled with caring and passionate people. I mention all this to let you know a little bit more about me, and also let folks know why I care so much about our community and would like to continue to give back to the best of my ability. I would like to thank the Jaycees for hosting this event and for the many other ways the Jaycees support our community. I want to thank Foxboro Cable Access for providing a forum for this discussion. And I would like to thank the other candidates for office who are willing to give their time and energy to support the town of Foxboro. And I would like to thank the current members of the Select Board, each of whom has run at least once in an uncontested election, which is to say they stepped up to do the job that needed to be done. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to help the community make an informed choice when they go to the polls on May 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to the Q&A section. Remember, each of you will be able to answer the same questions. Sophia?
And again, Sophia, one more time, these questions came in through email. They were put through a randomizer and a spinny wheel, as I like to call it, because I'm professional. And as the questions came up, here's what we have. Question number 1. There are several major capital projects on the horizon. This includes possible building projects, restoration of a new recreation center on Main Street, and purchasing new equipment. What are the top priorities you see for major capital projects?
Millie, we'll have you respond first.
I think the first, thank you for asking. I think the first major project we should continue with the senior citizen housing. That's very, very important. That's going in. I think we're also going to need a substation for the police and fire. The police department desperately needs one of those. So I think that is what we should focus on right now.
Did you say a substation?
Yes, for the
Okay,
police
I'm
department.
sorry, I just
yes.
couldn't hear.
I think
Right.
That's, oh, geez, if everyone answers that quickly, then we're going to get through this really fast.
All right.
Open,
and
right?
Seth,
Do
same
you want me to repeat the
question.
question, or?
No, I think
Okay.
my priorities, so first of all, I would suggest that the purchase of the church on Main Street was critical success, and we're still working through that as a town and as a select board and the various other administrations in town. But what we have there is an opportunity to provide a great space and great services, expanded services for the folks in town, seniors and young people as well, people who need support. It was a great investment, or the amount of money that was the deal was significantly less than the cost of potentially building a new facility. So I think that's number one. So I think that's a really big win. We're not there yet. We still need to have that approved at the polls and at town meeting. But I think that's a win. Then the next is the school. So it's the Taylor School, I think, is the next in line. That school is all of the other educational facilities have been brought up to code, brought up to standard, and I think that the updating the Taylor School to make it better, safer for our students and for the faculty is critical. So those are the two things on my list as far as capital projects.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Debbie, same question.
Thank
Do you
you.
want me to repeat the question, or you're all set?
No, I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you. Continuing on the path to purchasing the church for the seniors and the recreation department would be the first priority, because it's a great investment. We're there. We just need to finish the race by the votes at the polls and at town meeting. I also agree with Seth that the Taylor School project has to be forefront in people's minds as we vote on the other capital items, the other debt exclusion items that are on the ballot. And also, the DPW building is also on the ballot as a debt exclusion, and that needs desperately to be repaired as well. So those would be the three projects that I would consider to be a priority.
Okay.
Great, and Bill.
Thank you.
Yes. Obviously, sitting on the building committee for so many years, I think this is probably an unfair question for me.
Oh, well, again, it was random.
But again, the DPW building has been something that we've been in process for a number of years. It's finally at that point where we can pull the trigger, assuming that the taxpayers are willing to spend the money on it. It's a building that has really outlived its life technology-wise internally for the type of equipment that we're maintaining. And so therefore, that's why it's out there. It's out there at the same time, obviously, as the 76 Main Street, the church. The church, I agree with Seth, is a phenomenal purchase. I've been involved with that since day one. The cost is not just what we've agreed to in pricing, but we know there are other items that need to be done. Has to have life safety, a generator, has to have an elevator for ADA, and there are some other issues internally that we believe should be addressed at the same time. We've taken it a step further and looked at the potential that connecting to the town sewer. That's why it's an additional item that's on the town warrant article. And that would bring it in line with all of the other buildings that we've tried to put onto town sewer. We were successful when we did that with the borough. And then I would say that the Taylor School, which I've been championing for over 5 years now, and I've just submitted the last statement of interest to the state for reimbursement on for this coming year, which won't actually be brought to taxpayers until a year from now, if it's successful, would be the three top ones.
Yep. And just going to interject one personal opinion of mine here as a parent of a former Taylor student. Thank you all for saying the Taylor School. That's all. That's just interjecting myself in there for that one.
All right, we will move on to the next question. This time we'll start with Seth.
Okay. When the stadium lease expires in a few years, would you negotiate for a percentage of ticket sales or continue with a fixed amount fee per ticket? Ticket prices will increase over time, so why shouldn't our share also increase? Does that make sense?
Yes, that's a fantastic question, and I'm glad somebody asked that. So my understanding of the deal with the Kraft Group is that it runs through 2037,
Okay.
and that we receive, as you mentioned, a percentage of ticket sales. That program is called the pilot payment in lieu of taxes. One thing I'm interested in is understanding if we as a town were interested in assessing that property and assessing what the value would be if we were to charge a traditional property tax. I think that information is power. I know that the Kraft Group is a partner with the town. We love our Patriots, but I think understanding what that dynamic is in terms of what we receive, what we have been receiving over the many years of this deal, and what the impact is over the next, let's say, 13 years and into the future. I think understanding that is a critical item, that we should understand that better, just for informational purposes, so the town knows what kind of deal we have, and then we can decide how we move forward.
Great, thanks.
Great. And Deb.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. When the stadium lease expires in a few years, would you negotiate for a percentage of ticket sales or continue with a fixed amount, sorry, I keep messing this up, with a fixed amount fee per ticket? And then the person adds, ticket prices will increase over time, so why shouldn't our share also increase?
Thank you. At this time, I don't know a lot about the contract. I haven't sat at the table and had that opportunity. But as a citizen, I would approach it as I think it's not broke, so why fix it? Ticket-based portion back to the community. I'm not sure if that's the right answer. I would need more information.
Yep.
And I would certainly be open to getting that information and sharing an opinion at a later time. But keeping in mind that they're our biggest community partner and their success is our success, I think that it would bear looking into by a professional negotiator, lawyer type person to do the negotiations.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Great. And Bill.
Obviously, I think the percentage is the right way to go. Having been a season's ticket holder for years, the town, my ticket prices have gone up constantly during that period of time, and the town's gain has been relatively insignificant compared to that. I think I agree with Seth, this is really something that's not current. It's going to be something a number of years out from now if it's 2037 for it to actually renew. But, the benefit of doing it under a percentage basis obviously is as they gain, we gain, and taxpayers will benefit. The other side of it is, and I appreciate Seth's thought about the tax side. If you did the tax side, it would be obviously significantly more money because of the valuation of the property, but also would not be as attractive to the Kraft organization to have their facility here. So I think it's got to be a balanced approach. I think you really have to go into it as a partnership, and I think you need to know that they need to know that we need to benefit as well as they benefit, and when both do benefit, then we're both going to be happy.
Okay, thank you.
Great. And we'll move on to Millie.
I think that Kraft is the most amount of money we get from this town. It's the biggest taxpayer to us, and I think we have to work with Kraft. Whatever it takes to keep Kraft in this town is what we should do. I think we should sit down with him, not me personally, I'm not an attorney. I think the attorney should sit down with him, come up with a contract, and keep Kraft into this town at all cost. And I don't know what it should be percentage ticket-wise, but let's do what it takes.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, I didn't know how to approach this question. I'm glad you all had an answer for it, because I was like, oh boy, Hope this one isn't from too out of left field.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Deb.
Okay. Here we go. This is a mouthful. Ready? In light of the controversy around the current select board's handling of the town manager search, many feel the select board either disregarded or mishandled the recommendations for final interviews made by the volunteer search committee. Do you think this will discourage others from volunteering for other boards and committees in the future? And what can the select board do to rectify this in the future? That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a mouthful. I was on that selection committee. I spoke at the table with the Board of Selectmen on the night that the decision was made to move forward with an additional candidate, and I made my feelings known then. I'd like to stop there, but I won't, because I did say at that time that to not take the recommendation of the selected committee was a slap in the face to volunteers, and that in the future it would be difficult to get people to volunteer if that was the way that volunteers' time, efforts, and decisions were handled. I stand by that. I think that the community at large watching that process may have been soured. I think the community at large watching that process felt that there was a lack of transparency and a lack of openness in the decisions that were being made. And I think that part of my forum in getting elected is that I'd like to return to the transparency and openness that is required of the board to make the citizens of Foxborough fully aware and not feel disengaged that they don't want to participate. I hope that a change in that focus would make people still want to volunteer because it's so critical.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Bill, you're next.
Yeah, I would say that unfortunately, it was a very flawed system, the way it was handled. The concern I had was multi-faceted. It was obviously for the search committee that had put together the work. I was on the search committee for the prior candidate, and it is a lot of work, and it is a lot of involvement for those people that are volunteering to do it. But also the thing that it put a kind of a shadow over Foxborough is that typically when you're announcing candidates to move forward, they know who they're competing against, and they don't have aren't going to get short-sighted by something else happening. In this particular case, an internal candidate being brought forward after their names were put out into the public and their livelihoods were actually put on a line was truly unfair to those candidates as well. So I think the town not only has an issue with people wanting to volunteer if they're not going to be taken seriously, but I think it also has an issue with not following policy and procedure that is normal in the process and puts candidates at risk.
Thank you. Millie, same question.
Do you want me to read it again?
I was not part of the committee with that. I have no problem volunteering as I sit here today, so I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay. And just to remind everyone, there is a second part to this question, and maybe we'll come back to it after this. But
okay, and Seth.
Thank you. So again, I'm really thankful to hear this question because I think about this a lot.
Random.
I do appreciate as a member of the select board people who volunteer in town, and I said as much. And I know that when I volunteer, I like to feel appreciated in the work that I do. Volunteer means you're not getting paid. You're doing it out of the goodness of your heart, or generally speaking, that's why people volunteer. So I'm very appreciative and thankful for the people who contribute their time and efforts to the town. I say that sincerely. As far as the selection for Paige Duncan as town manager, when I think about the candidates that were put forward, I believe that the search committee picked the very best candidates that were put in front of them based on their perspective on the qualifications. So all of those candidates that came before us, all of the candidates that the committee put forward, the search committee put forward, were accepted. When I think about my role as a select board member. Ultimately, my job is to pick the very best town manager for the town of Foxboro. So I understand that people who volunteered may feel somewhat slighted, and I apologize for that. I understand that people who are part of the committee or are part of the candidates for the role put themselves at some risk, and I appreciate that. Ultimately, my role is to pick the very best candidate, and that's what I had to do. And so I also agree that there could have been a better way or approach. There could have been different communications potentially, but I needed to pick the best candidate, and I think Paige was, and I think she's proving that to be the best candidate. She's doing the job now. She's excelling, and so that's, yep, that's it.
Okay, can I, sorry, one second. Can I just, because it's the second part of the question, is it okay, Caitlin, if I can just re-ask this part?
Sure.
We might have to go this one more time. The second part of the question was, and what can the current select board do to rectify this in the future? It's maybe an opinion thing.
You asking me?
Yeah, we'll go down the line.
I would say just be a little bit more transparent.
Okay.
I would actually say if they really had an interest in doing something in a specific way or having somebody included in the process, just to the point of transparency, just put that out up front. Again, I think we lost 2 candidates in the final minutes of that because they didn't know that this person was going to be allowed to come forward, and they didn't realize that there seemed to be a preference. And so therefore, we didn't have the pool that we initially started off with. I appreciate Seth's comment that, picking the best in his mind. But I also believe that the transparency here of what they were trying to accomplish or who they felt should have been just right up from the very beginning.
Deb?
I agree with Bill. Transparency and openness was lacking, and it was very apparent. I think also that if there was a guideline that we were missing, if there was a step that we were missing because we as a committee, because we weren't told that this was an additional step in the guidelines, that was an important piece that was missing. Had the committee been told that they needed to consider an inside candidate first and foremost, then that was the rules of the committee, and we would have done that. So clear understanding of what the goal is with the rules that you need to get to that goal would have been beneficial and would be beneficial in moving forward with any other committees.
Okay, thank you. And Seth?
Yeah, and I agree to a large extent. We always want to have the best process, the best plan, the best procedures to drive results for the town. And sometimes things come up, things happen where you have to change course. You have to be flexible. And this was one of those situations where we had to be flexible. I agree with transparency. I'm an advocate for transparency. There's certain things that need to be, that are based on strategy, that are better to have within, behind closed doors, as far as negotiating contracts and the like. So I agree with transparency. The process played out the way it did, and I think the result was good. And so that's where I have to decide was the best for the town. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for that. Thank you, Caitlin, for allowing that extra follow-up.
Now we're going to move on to the final question. This time we're going to start with Bill.
Okay. What are your opinions of the MBTA communities law and how the zoning is presently presented to the town? And do you support the premise of the law or not, and why? I don't know if that's clear enough. That's all I got.
Yeah, I will say I'm not an expert on this area, but I do believe that having the stop that the MBTA is trying to push through and having control over that the way the state currently does limits the town's abilities to really manage it. And I think that in the end, it may not be the best thing for the town overall, but again, not having enough of a background on it.
Okay.
All right, and Millie, your turn.
The MBTA law is that 1030A law, and the town has to have 1,700 fair housing apartments put in. Right now, we are in compliance with the state, but we have to go before the zoning board to make sure that we are in zoning compliance. So we have to have Part B. So with that said, there have been parcels identified throughout the town that we could put the 1,700 units in. Am I in favor of that or against that? No, we can't afford it. We can't put them in right now. There's, you know, what are we gonna do with that? So I am not in favor of it, no.
Okay, thanks.
All right, and Seth?
I always struggle with state mandates on towns and cities and municipalities when they have a cookie cutter approach that they apply against all towns, whether it's the best for a particular municipality or not. They have their intentions, and maybe they're the best of intentions, but they have unintended consequences. For Foxboro, with the zoning, and just to be clear, this is an MBTA, around MBTA towns and cities, it's a mandate to change zoning, to allow a certain type of building, high density building. It doesn't mandate that they need to be built. So while the intent right now is for Foxboro to comply based on everything we've heard and talked about, we're trying to minimize the impact to the town. So that means isolating or considering an area that's on the north side of town by the stadium. It's primarily parking lots. That's the proposed area for the change in zoning. So thinking about the least impact area of town, and as more comes out, we can be flexible and change our approach. For right now, the plan is compliance and minimize the impact to our community.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, and Deb.
Do you want me to read it again? Or you're...
No, that's okay, thank you. The state is making a mandate, and we as a community have to follow it, and that's what we're doing. I am not in favor of the MBTA Act. However, I'm only one vote. Again, people need to go to the polls and vote how they feel. We couldn't support the community that's envisioned. Our infrastructure won't allow it. Our schools won't allow it. I don't even know if water would allow it at this point. But excuse me. With those limits in mind, I'm certainly not in favor of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got water right there, Deb.
Excuse me.
All right, so now if you would like to make a closing statement, that's what we'll do now. So we'll go in the reverse order that we started out in. So we'll start with Seth, and Deb, Bill, Millie.
Thank you again for the time tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to help the community understand what I bring to the table and the ways in which I could continue to contribute to the success of our town. If elected, I would continue to consider all aspects of the issues before the Select Board when making decisions. I would strive to provide prudent oversight of the assets of the town and focus on smart investments that drive long-term value. And as I've shown during my first term on the Select Board, I will be an advocate for action. I will actively look for opportunities to move the town forward. Change can be hard, yet it is inevitable. And I firmly believe we need forward-thinking Select Board members who are ready to lead Foxborough forward while still maintaining the things that we as a community value. Foxborough does face challenges that will need to be addressed over the coming years. We as a town will have to work together to meet these challenges in a thoughtful and strategic way. I believe that my ability to think analytically and strategically has been and will continue to be an asset to the Select Board and the town as we move forward. Finally, I believe my independence is a critical aspect of what I bring to the board. My campaign is driven by the people who support me for what I have done and what I will continue to do, which is to strive to do what is best for Foxborough. Expect no undue influence from special interests and no one pulling strings from behind the scenes. I want what is best for the town, and that is it. That is why I run, and that is why I ask for your support. The future of Foxboro is bright. I do believe that we are the gem of Norfolk County, and I would be honored to continue to serve and support our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Deb, you go next if you'd like.
In closing, I would just like to ask for your support at the polls on May 6th. I bring passion, I bring knowledge, I bring a love of Foxboro and everything Foxboro related. I am a huge, huge Foxboro fan, again, having grown up here and raised my children, and I think bringing that to the table of the select board is important. You need some passion there, not just the ability to be analytical and make decisions based on other factors. So if I could have your support on May 6th, I'd be most appreciative, and thanks again for this evening.
Thank you. And Bill.
I'd like to thank the Foxboro Jaycees, Foxboro Cable Access, and the people who submitted the questions for the opportunity to get the word out on my candidacy. I would also like to congratulate my fellow candidates for stepping up for this position. As I previously noted, I have a strong professional background in both in private and public sector. I am the only candidate that has an internal working knowledge of the town's finance, facilities, and operations. I believe I have shown my willingness to use my skills and knowledge to improve the town through my volunteer work on numerous boards and committees. My work on the building committee has enabled me to work with all major departments and better understand how they operate and what their needs are. I feel that the building committee has saved the Foxboro taxpayers a significant amount of money as we watch every penny as if it was our own, because it is. I am proud of what we have been able to do while in the position as a school building administrator, financially overseeing the largest budget and continuously staying within the budget guidelines. I'm closing with a thank you to my wife for her support, and I hope that I'll have your support as well on May 6th.
Thank you. And Millie.
Thank you. I want to thank the Foxboro Jaycees, the Cable Access, Caitlin, and the community for having me here tonight. In closing, I would like to have you vote for me on May 6th. I bring a lot to the table. I've been a real estate agent for 36 years. I am responsible for mainly bringing all the houses up in value in this town. So if you want to talk money, it's me bringing them up. I speak highly of the town each and every day. So I'm the one that says it's the gem of Norfolk County. I care deeply about the seniors in this town. I hear a lot of them say, please, please, I want to stay in this town. Please, please, keep me here. I hear a lot from young mothers down at the schools. Everywhere I go, they say how expensive it is to live here. Can you find me housing? Can you do this? Can you do that? So I'll be an advocate for them. So that's all I have to say. So if you can vote for me on May 6th, I'd appreciate it.
Great.
That's it.
And many thanks to you, the candidates. It's been great having you here. We appreciate your participation, and we appreciate you running for this important role. This brings our program to a close. We would like to thank the candidates again for taking their time to be with us tonight. We want to thank the viewers at home for watching. Thank you to those who submitted your questions. Another thank you to Cable Access for partnering with us, the Jaycees. We will rebroadcast this on this channel up until Election Day on May 6th. Please see the FCA program schedule for show dates and times. You may also view this program on their website, fcatv.org. Thank you, the audience, again at home. And we hope that information in this podcast will bring you more information for your vote on May 6th. And as a reminder, the voting is open at Ahern Middle School from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. And don't forget about the town meeting on the following Monday, May 13th at the High School Assembly Hall. Please get out and vote. And on behalf of the Foxboro Jaycees and Foxboro Cable Access, thank you again for watching. Good night.